The White House says President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping will discuss trade, Taiwan, and fraught U.S. Chinese relations when they meet next week in the San Francisco Bay Area. Today is Saturday, November 11th, 2023, and this is the Dunkley Report. The White House says President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping will discuss trade, Taiwan, and fraught U.S. Chinese relations when they meet next week in the San Francisco Bay Area. Biden and Xi will be in San Francisco for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. China's foreign ministry confirms Xi will attend APEC at Biden's invitation. Biden and Xi have no shortage of difficult issues to address in their first engagement in a year. Taiwan's upcoming election, differences over U.S. export controls on advanced technology, North Korea, the Israel-Hamas war, and more are expected to be on the agenda. Thousands of Palestinians sheltering from the Israel-Hamas war at Gaza City's main hospital are fleeing south after several reported strikes in and around the compound overnight. Those leaving on Friday joined a growing exodus of people escaping intense urban fighting in the north, including near other hospitals. The search for safety across Gaza has grown desperate as Israel intensifies its assault on the territory's largest city. Gaza officials say more than 11,000 Palestinians have died during the war, which was triggered by a Hamas incursion of Israel that led to at least 1,200 deaths. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says, far too many. Palestinians have died and suffered as Israel wages a relentless war against the militant Hamas group in the Gaza Strip. He urged Israel to take steps to minimize harm to civilians and maximize humanitarian assistance that reaches them. Blinken said on Friday that recent Israeli moves to improve dire conditions are positive, but they are not nearly enough. His comments came as he wrapped up a grueling 9-day diplomatic mission to the Middle East and Asia, during which he initially encountered skepticism and outright resistance from all sides to his proposals. Fistfights break out in breadlines. Residents wait hours for a gallon of brackish water that makes them sick. Scabies, diarrhea, and respiratory infections rip through overcrowded shelters. And some families have to choose who eats. With the Israel-Hamas war in its second month and more than 10,000 people killed in Gaza, trapped civilians are struggling to survive without electricity or running water. Over 500,000 displaced people have crammed into hospitals and UN schools' turn shelters in the south. Each day has become a mind-numbing cycle of searching for bread and water and waiting in lines. A sense of desperation has strained Gaza's close-knit society and even emboldened some Palestinians to vent their anger against the ruling Hamas militant group. Thousands of Palestinians are fleeing northern Gaza as Israel's military pushes deeper into dense urban neighborhoods in its battle with Hamas militants. The search for safety in Gaza is growing more desperate as combat intensifies. The World Health Organization says 20 of Gaza's 36 hospitals aren't functioning. Residents who escaped northern Gaza and Palestinian health officials reported strikes in and around Gaza City's main hospital. Officials in the besieged enclave say the Palestinian death toll has surpassed 11,000 people. Late Friday, Israel's foreign ministry said it had lowered the official death toll from Hamas's October 7th cross-border attack into Israel to 1,200 people. Israel previously estimated the death toll at 1,400. The ministry gave no reason for the revision. The Jordan River winds for 200-plus miles to the east of Israel and the occupied West Bank, while the Mediterranean glitters to the west. But a phrase about the space in between, from the river to the sea, has become a battle cry with new power to royal Jews and pro-Palestinian activists in the aftermath of Hamas's attack on southern Israel on October 7th and Israel's bombardment of the Gaza Strip. Pro-Palestinian activists from London to Rome to Washington chant, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Many say it's a call for freedom after 75 years of Israeli statehood. Jews and many of Israel's supporters hear it as a demand for the destruction of the Jewish state. Jewish refugees from the war between Israel and Hamas are finding safety in an unused lakeside resort in the Hungarian countryside. Many of them had earlier fled conflict in Ukraine when Russia invaded in 2022. The camp currently houses around 250 people, including 100 children, and provides kosher food, shelter, and camaraderie for the refugees. When Hamas launched its attack on Israel, the camp was already in operation and ready to accept those fleeing the new conflict, while the residents of the camp have found comfort in their common experience of having to leave their homes. They still do not know when they'll be able to return. More than 2 weeks ago, Otis went from tropical storm to Category 5 hurricane in a record 12 hours. It caught authorities and residents flat-footed in this city of 1 million, a blend of big hotels and impoverished suburbs, tourism and drug violence. Now it is trying to recover at a similarly unequal rhythm. Cars can again drive down the city's principal streets past rubble and felled palm trees. At some points around the city, signs read, "Free food." There are lines everywhere for water, food, access to pharmacies. Soldiers and National Guard troops fill the central streets, easily outnumbering the once ubiquitous palm trees. French far-right leader Marine Le Pen has set off a cacophony of criticism over her plans to attend a weekend march to protest rising anti-Semitism in France. Critics say her party has failed to shake its anti-Semitic heritage despite newfound political legitimacy. Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne. Numerous political parties and citizens are to attend the Sunday march. Le Pen has said that she and her National Rally Party also will be there, though government spokesman Olivier Véran said Wednesday that her party does not have a place at the march. With new categories, Barbie and SZA, there's a lot to discuss regarding the 2024 Grammy Award nominations. But who didn't make the cut? And what were the best surprises of all? If there is something to pop bottles over, it is the 7 nominations for Victoria Monet. The R&B talent, producer, and Best New Artist nominee is a lead contender this year, now being recognized for her solo skills. The best story of the 2024 Grammy nominations, of course, is just how many women are represented in the major categories. But what about a dearth in country and Latin representation in the major categories? Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the world news for Saturday, November 11th, 2023. Thanks again for joining us at The Dunkley Report.